Hey, this is Ishar, and one thing I've noticed through my journey in life is that as you grow and become more open as a person, your personality becomes less solid. And this could happen either through intense meditation or gradually your fixed identity, or what they call your ego structure, starts to recede a bit. Or it can happen through personal growth, where you consciously choose to take on many different life experiences and expand your range of personality. And, I've noticed a lot of people hold on to very strong beliefs about their personality, such as labeling themselves as a shy person, for example. However, this can keep them trapped from experiencing the life that they want. So, our consistent habits, viewpoints, and our attention can shape the range of personality that we can express. So, for example, when I was in college at the age of 22, living in a big city with a very large group of friends, and I had a huge focus on physical fitness, and I worked as a club promoter on the weekends. This elicited a specific range of my personality where I felt extremely extroverted, adventurous, and brimming with confidence, and also very optimistic. However, years later, when I moved to a smaller city after the pandemic and took on a stable remote job and began to meditate more, and at the same time also picked up less favorable or positive habits, such as exercising less and having a poorer diet and hanging out with friends less, this elicited a different range of my personality. So I became more thoughtful and reflective, but I also became more quiet, risk adverse, and less willing to take on challenges. And this became my new mode of being. And these are just, two examples I've given, but you can see that the more experiences in life that you have, the more spontaneous you become. And you can become like a shapeshifter where you can put yourself into different realities and ways of being. But just realize that once you're in a certain range of your personality or access this range, it actually becomes harder to access the opposite qualities and it takes a bit more work to access. So, for example, when I was in the fun, extroverted mode and phase of my life, I definitely was not in the right headspace to write, the books or make these talks. And on the same token, in my reflective phase of life, it also became very hard to coax the adventurous and social side of myself out. And in fact, in that phase, I found it very difficult to even order a drink at a coffee shop. So I would be all nervous or couldn't project my voice or was overthinking things socially. So one thing I found pretty helpful is to ask yourself, how are my daily habits, influences, and life decisions shaping my life currently? So if your life is going great, or maybe it's not, you can look and take an audit of all the things that have brought you to this certain state of being. And then from there, you can see, what do I need to change as far as my attention and where I place my attention to be on the same frequency or range as my goal. So, for example, let's just say recently you've been feeling uninspired, bored, and complacent. So, this is probably because your attention every day has been on the same topics, it's been on the same routines, and you haven't stepped out of your comfort zone much recently. And life feels that it's lacking challenge, and who you are isn't a, boring person, but rather just the accumulations of your daily habits and attention. And this is great because, this is not a solid thing. Your personality is not very like this really heavy, unchanging thing, but rather you can change it by accessing a different range and you can become someone who is the opposite of these qualities. So, say someone who's passionate or spontaneous. So, how can you do this? Well, perhaps you sign up for a random class. You could leave your house and with no plans in mind and just go where you feel like it. You can maybe take on a challenging risk. You can try something new. And at first, these habits may feel very odd, but if done consistently, you suddenly experience this new rush of energy or spontaneous nature or passion nature come in. And if you remain consistent in these behaviors, you become someone who is passionate and spontaneous rather than uninspired, bored, and complacent. So that's just one example. Let's look at another. Let's say you describe your personality as being negative, angsty, and withdrawn. I've definitely been there a lot. So the first thing you want to handle is how can you go from negative to positive? So you can think to yourself, all right, I'm going to do positive affirmations every day. So let's just say you're a huge skeptic. And one way to think about this is let's just say you do a 30-day challenge. And in this 30 days, you consciously remove or distance yourself from any influences that bring your energy down or make you more negative. So you can start to look at your diet. Perhaps you are not exercising much or you're with a lot of friends that complain. At least for this 1 month, you just say, okay, I'm going to distance myself from these influences. And anytime I notice a negative thought, I'm not even going to entertain it. Instead, I'm going to practice gratitude and perhaps start meditating and do these things that will turn me into more of a positive person. Now let's look at being withdrawn. So one thing you can do is to practice getting out of your comfort zone and doing the things that a person who's a bit expressive, so the opposite of withdrawn, would be doing. So let's just say socially you just start saying hi to one person each day. And if you are used to being very withdrawn, this may sound, very hard and could even sound ridiculous. But these very small habits build over time. So at first, when you just say hi to someone, just make casual conversation, you're so withdrawn that actually no one hears you. You think you're projecting your voice, but it's actually very quiet. Or you tend to, when you go to a public venue, you tend to just hang out in the corner. However, if you just keep practicing these very small habits of just putting yourself out there and maybe saying yes to social events and even go by yourself and pat yourself on the back for doing so, then these little habits compound over time. So let's just say you start to make small talk and you hate it. You're just like, I hate doing this. I just want to be at home. But you keep persisting. And maybe then you make your first friend. And then you keep going and practice these habits. Then you make a second friend. And because you're also now practicing positivity, more people want to hang out with you. So before maybe you were weirding them out with your vibe and you're just too negative and dark, no one wanted to be with you. But now because you've practiced the positivity challenge and doing all these things, you're a bit more friendly and people want to at least talk to you a bit more. So now you're starting to look forward to social events, whereas before you did not. And you become, over time, if you keep practicing these habits, someone who is naturally positive, upbeat, and social. And after 5 years of living in this way, people that had known you before wouldn't even recognize this new version of you. So it's crazy how these very small habits that you do consistently can really change your character and your personality and the range of your personality. So you do have the power to choose how you show up in the world. But just remember, your brain won't give you access to these certain qualities or states of being unless it sees a reason to, and unless you actually practice these things. So if you want to be a positive person, but you're doing nothing to be positive, your brain will just say, okay, well, there's no reason for this person, this human, to be positive. So over time, through enough practice, you become the things that you put your attention to. And know that at any time, all you have to do is simply just change your external situations and your internal attention to match, to resonate to a certain goal or what you would like to become. And by consistently expanding your range and choosing your preferred habits over time, you break away from this certain stuckness that a lot of people tend to live life through, where they believe that they can change and they're doomed to be a certain way for the rest of their life. So in this exercise, in practicing these things, you can become like a shapeshifter and choose the preferred habits to really change your life over time. So let me know in the comments what actions you'll be taking today to get the ball rolling in your preferred reality and preferred direction in life. Thank you.